Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Beyond Breakfast with Rav Dessler. We're going to be looking at his essay on Parshat Korach. And this is what he says. He says, this was actually taken from Rabbi Eliyahu. He says as follows. He says, the fox and the lion. He says, on an ocean liner en route to America, right, the third of Parshat Korach, this is when he wrote this, in 1930, 5690, okay, on his travels. He says, my dear pupils, I've started writing to you several times, but had to stop. I was unwell the first few days, but even now that I feel better, thank God, it's still difficult to write. The movement of the ship makes my hand unsteady and probably very sick. He said, I want to write to you on this extremely important matter, something that will be useful to you all your lives. You would do well to fix it firmly in your memory. Please notice who wrote this, Rav Hai Gaon, the greatest of the Gaonim, in his responsum 13. I will copy it out for you word for word. So he's quoting a piece from Rav Hai Gaon, and this is what he said. There was a parable about a lion who wanted to eat a fox for his dinner. The fox said to the lion, what good can I be to you? I will show you a very fat human being who you can kill, and you'll have plenty to eat. There's a pit covered with branches, and grass behind it sat a man. When the lion saw the man, he said to the fox, I'm afraid this man may pray and cause me trouble. The fox said, nothing will happen to you or to your son. Thank you so much. Maybe your grandson will have to suffer for it. Meanwhile, you can eat and be satisfied until your grandson comes along. There will be still plenty of time. The lion was persuaded and ran out toward the man. He fell into the pit and was trapped. The fox came to the edge of the pit and he looked down. The lion said, didn't you tell me the punishment would only come to my grandson? Your grandfather may have done something so wrong that you're suffering for it, replied the fox. Is that fair? Said the lion. The father eats sour grapes and the children's teeth ache. So why didn't you think of that before? Replied the fox. How much musar is in this beautiful little fable? So the fox is kind of giving into his base wants and needs. The lion is giving into his base wants and needs, and now he's suffering for it. So this is what how Rav Dessler explains this parable. He says, it seems amazing to us that Rav Hai Gaon should have taken trouble to write out in his responsa, this is a halachic work, what seems to be no more than a children's fable. There must be some great message which escapes us. What is the deeper message Rav Hai Gaon was writing here? He said, there's another puzzle in this week's Parshat Korach. We know that Korach was a very intelligent man and a great man, one of those chosen to carry the Holy Ark. With him were 250 heads of the Sanhedrin, the great generation which received the Torah at Har Sinai. How could they all have made such an obvious mistake? How could they accuse Moshe and Aaron of taking them out of the land flowing with milk of honey of Egypt? Had they enjoyed the milk and honey of Egypt? Had they not seen with their own eyes that Israel was enslaved in Egypt? How were they beaten and persecuted, their children slaughtered and buried alive in the walls of the buildings? All of Israel joined in cry, and not only the mixed multitude of Egyptians and others accompanied them. After all, in the desert, they had all they needed. How could they present such a foolish argument, implying that they had been better off in Egypt? They presented it with such force as though it was true and obvious to all. By the way, it's so funny. I'm not sure if it's like an age thing or if it's just the time that we're living in, but we see this all the time. People voting for Mamdani. People who put all kinds of interesting people in power and have all kinds of charata and regret with such conviction. Of course, this is the guy, this is the way. This kind of question can be asked in every generation, including our own. When we study the sciences, we see how very intelligent people bring into their study arguments which contradict the base tenets of our holy Torah. It is not difficult to see their errors, but they proclaim their argument with such great vigor and obstinacy as though their words were true beyond a shadow of a doubt. We must understand that even the views of the most intelligent people cannot be trusted when their personal desires block them from erring. But they use their intelligence to mislead others, accepting their foolish conclusions as if they were based on the most rigorous logic. Every sinner wants to lead others to sin. It's not enough for me to do it. I want to bring down everyone with me. And this is Rav Dessler. He says, maybe this is one of the lessons Rav Hai Gaon wanted to teach us in this parable. The lion, the king of the beasts, fell into the fox trap simply because he was attracted by the sight of some fat meat. His desire prevented him from seeing what he afterward realized was the truth. And therefore, Rav Dessler speaks about this concept of being nogea. We all have negiut. We all have things that we want. And sometimes our own wants create such a powerful illusion of reality for ourselves. We get entrapped by it, and we get stuck by it. And so the lion ends up making him, he could have eaten the fox, no problem. But the fox presents this much greater scenario: fattier meat, greener pastures, more opportunity, more money, more power, more control. Rav Dessler says, we take a clear look at our own times, we shall see that those who run blindly after material things lose touch with the truth. And I could certainly say that. I just spent Shabbat in Azerbaijan, in Baku, with some very wealthy, powerful people, oligarchs from the Ukraine, the former Soviet Union, and so on and so forth. These guys are living in La La Land, total La La Land, completely disconnected from reality. Disconnected from reality. Now, how does that happen? Well, when your pleasures and your desires become the focal point of your existence, you live in a world of dimyon, of imagination, not truth. And now you could go ahead and justify all kinds of things: murdering people, stealing from people, because that's what you want. Once you're living in a world of imaginary rationalization, you could do anything. Anything is possible. So he's just saying that scientists are no different, by the way. They want to believe so badly that their science is true, that their philosophy is true behind their science, that they don't realize their own negiut, their own biases, influence their logic. There's two minds happening, like Mike Kahneman taught us, the thinking fast, thinking slow mind, right? There's two different minds that we have, and there's the fast mind wants us to believe the imaginary things are true, and it somehow is able to hack, right? There's an interface, an interplay between that logical truth mind, and it could hijack it and create a whole false illusion that these people are running after. Take a clear look at our own times. He says, people that are run blindly after material things lose touch with the truth. Both scholars and scientists can be can drown in a sea of materialism and use their knowledge and cleverness to draw others after them by mixing anti-Torah ideas with their science. But a critical person, can soon distinguish between wisdom and foolishness. In the mind of one who is guided by faith of the Torah, the fear of sin comes before wisdom. If Hashem is near to him in his heart and God's Torah is his delight, he will not easily fall into the trap laid out by his Yetzer Hara. In every generation, those who were seduced by their Yetzer Hara wanted everyone else to follow them, even great people like spies and Korach and the heads of Sanhedrin. We have to pray with intensity for Hashem to save us from the Yetzer Hara and draw our hearts to him always. If we really want this, then he fulfills this wish of those who fear him. He hears their cry and saves them. So you could have a guy like Korach, who's a genius, brilliant. Some say even more intelligent than Moshe. He was definitely wealthier than Moshe, the wealthiest Jew of the time. But he was so motivated by his passion and his desires that it hijacked his rational brain and led him to the place which literally pushed him off into the abyss of nothingness. So you could have everything and lose. So how does that happen? No yirat shamayim. Reshit chokhmah yirat Hashem. My wife is running a trip for 60 girls from around the country who are not religious. They're all in their they're either sophomore or juniors in college, and she asked me to help her with a a trip to New York. They're staying for the next 4 days in Camp Kaylee before camp starts. We're using their facilities, and she's running it was asked to run like a hike for them. So my wife asked me this morning, she's like, "Can you give me some kind of like meditation or a meditative thing for them to think about? Like, what would you do?" I said, with beginners, I do one thing, I do gratitude. Because if you don't have a Hakaras Tov, you don't have God. It's all about you. And Hakaras Tov leads to yirat shamayim. Yirat shamayim leads to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's this. So when you believe everything is owed to you, right, like the lion who wants to just satiate his own desires, you're not thinking anymore, you're going to end up in that pit with all kinds of regrets. Your grandchildren will be eating those sour grapes. But you're someone who's rooted in recognizing that of course Hashem loves you, and no matter what the challenge is, it's your challenge. It is not against the way, it is your way. Your situation is your way. Your family is your way. Your circumstances is your way. That's yours. There is no other scenario. It's a joke. It's an imaginary thing that you like to believe that had I made these choices, it's not true. You're exactly right now where you need to be. Embrace it. Stop being a victim. You're not a victim to your circumstances. Embrace the situation. The situation is your way. That is your path forward. Overcome it, you find greatness. Overcome it, you find God. You try to avoid it and try to undo what God has so carefully plotted for you. It took 5,786 years to get you to be exactly where your neshama needs to be. Don't try to circumvent it. Embrace it, and you will not end up where Korach tried changing history, and it ended up with costing him everything, right? Because of lack of humility, a lack of yirat, a lack of hakar to tov for all the things that he had. B'ezrat Hashem, we should always have the ability of being grateful for the things that we have that insight, leads us to yirat shamayim, and hopefully with a deeper appreciation for the wisdom that God so graciously wants to grant to us. Have a great day, everybody.